Family therapist Jane Marks talking about teens and school anxiety. It's Monday morning and a lot of people heading back to school and some people dealing with school avoidance.
Absolutely. You know, this is the first day and everyone should be excited, but for parents who have had kids who, historically struggle with anxiety or depression, the first 2 or 3 weeks of school can be pretty daunting. So for parents of teenagers, it's particularly important to, one, understand what may be some of the causes of school avoidance or school anxiety. So we start with, making sure that there are no physiological things. Make sure you get that physical ahead of schedule, because sometimes we're talking about anemia or thyroid problems, and or sleep disruption, that it can cause a lot of fatigue. And as such, parents need to be aware of that. Now, second, you got to make sure that there's no chronic depression. Chronic depression will stall a teen out every single time. So that's a critical thing to be aware of. And if that is the case, if it's very serious depression, it is prudent on parents' part to get a hold of a specialist in the area, either a psychologist or counselor or psychiatrist if it's very serious. For parents with children with school anxiety, it is critical that you establish a relationship with your school. If you have a child historically who has missed a couple of days or will continue to miss a couple of days, without that relationship with school personnel, it's going to be a real huge struggle to establish as many solutions as possible. Now, parents will often ask, well, what do we do? I mean, what do I do? And so I always start, as we do in this segment, with having a conversation and listening. What has happened in your history that may make you so anxious? For example, kids who have been bullied historically. Yet, if you've been bullied both in middle school and elementary school, you're going to go to high school with the same anticipation that, this is going to happen all over again. Or kids who struggle with gender issues. There's a fear sometimes that people will notice that they're struggling, even though nobody really is paying attention to what you're thinking. But kids who are sensitive to that sometimes feel that way. Parents also need to be aware of health habits. Are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? I think this whole issue of preparing for school can be pretty daunting, but it can also be a very exciting time for parents. So school anxiety is an issue that's going to crop up with so many parents, when they're young. See, here's what I love. When parents are young and children are young, the only problem that parents have to worry about is my child clinging to my legs or their tears. When you're teenagers, it gets to be a much more difficult task. So for parents, I hope this serves as a little bit of information to help in that transition to the school year. But, we always have so much more information online.
All right. Thank you, Jane Marks, for joining us here, our WTXL contributor. Stay with us. We're back in just 2 minutes.